Definitely cried more than I should have. Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about a new Netflix movie released today called Okja, about a genetically engineered super pig and the young girl, Mija, who raises it.
We needed a miracle. And then we got one.
This film is written and directed by Joon-Ho, one of my favorite Korean directors. He's known for The Host, Mother, and most recently Snowpiercer, all really unique and well done movies, and Okja is no different. This is a really fun, well done movie, very densely packed with a lot of different themes and super interesting characters. The story involves this pig called Okja getting taken away and Mija's quest to get her friend back. The relationship between Mija and Okja make the heart of this film, and the actress that plays Mija is amazing. I'm going to talk more about her later, but first let's set the story up. There's a big multinational company that sends off 20-some pigs to be raised across the world for this big competition that spans over a decade to see who can raise the fattest, healthiest pig. Mija lives in the forest with her grandfather and Okja, and they live a really simple life. She isn't aware of the agreement they made. She assumes that they will get to keep Okja. She's had her since she was a baby, and now Okja's about the size of a tank. Bong Joon-ho is really good at bringing this CGI animal to life. It's obvious that his amazing CGI monster work in The Host has carried over well almost a decade later. Okja is Mija's best friend, and in the first 20 minutes of this film, we see how comfortable they are with each other. We believe that they have a decade of history through how they interact, how she feeds her, how they play together, and it's not just a one-way street. As much as Mija takes care of Okja, Okja also takes care of Mija, which is why Mija is willing to go to the ends of the earth to save Okja. This is set in a very slightly alternate reality. The main difference is the super big pigs, but the population is around 7 billion, just like in present life, and there is no technology in the film that doesn't already exist today. Even the super bigs are pretty much true. That is what we've done with livestock, breeding them to be bigger, fatter, juicier, and more environmentally friendly, whatever that means. This film is actually very realistic because there are real-life equivalents to all the different groups in the film, from the big multinational corporation that farms animals, to the animal rights activists that try to free them, to the mercenary group called Black Chalk in the film, a not so subtle reference to Blackwater, the real life soldiers for hire. And that makes for a very interesting tone because the movie is hilarious. It has some of the funniest bits I've seen in a while, and the humor catches you off guard because the characters are really goofy, but the consequences are very real. And by consequences, I mean the suffering the animals are going through. Okja is really suffering, and it gets really dark, especially with a scene in a cage, so I think the humor is a much needed counterweight. So when Okja is eventually taken away, Mija goes on an adventure to save her, and she meets a whole cast of quirky supporting characters along the way. Tilda Swinton plays the face of the big multinational company, who is an interesting person herself. She wants her company to look good after the terrible, violent legacy her father left, and it's hinted at, and she even has this very twisted relationship with a sister. She eventually convinces Mija to become the face of their company and advertise the supposedly humane treatment they have for their animals. This, of course, is done to protect Okja, which is the motivating factor in everything Mija does. The supporting characters are all unapologetically played to their archetypes, like the big CEO trying to give her company a makeover, or the once popular host who's on the downward trajectory of his career, but they all have so much personality, nothing is held back. Jake Gyllenhaal especially, he gives a amazing performance as this animal-loving host who has a good TV presence, but his actual personality off camera is a complete mess, and it's hilarious. I've never thought, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal is funny, but that's what Bong Joon-ho is really good at. Everyone in this film is really funny. Yeun and Dano play part of this animal liberation group, so they are the activists who assist Mija on her quest to save Okja. They have their own code of conduct that involves non-violence, so you get these hilarious scenes where they act like a terrorist group, breaking into vehicles, holding people up, and fighting, but they are constantly apologizing and reassuring their combatants that they mean no harm. The character work in this film is superb and features a superstar performance by Seo-hyun, who plays Mija. She is the Korean little girl equivalent of Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise's better than Tom Cruise. She is constantly running, sprinting towards Okja, and she looks good doing it. She loves her, and you can tell by the singular Terminator-like focus in which she goes after her, from chasing cars to jumping on top of trucks, running through glass panels. It's really impressive and really touching. And aside from Mija, one thing that stuck out to me about this film is that even the most minor side characters are given really good characterizations with small amounts of screen time. We have a truck driver who doesn't have insurance, so he's not willing to work beyond what's required. We have one of the managers who's really loyal to the company. These are small things, but it's all too common for movies to have side characters that are there to do or say one thing and then are forgotten. In this film, all the characters that talk have a little something that lets you imagine their life beyond the scene. And it's a more believable world because you see three-dimensional background characters, and that's very rare. I could go on and on about things that I loved about this film. There are things I didn't like, but I don't think the director made bad decisions. It's just my preference or my mood. I would say things that made me feel bad or I wasn't in the mood for would be stuff in the third act. It's not quite as good as the first half, but that's because the first half is so much fun and there's all of this built-up energy that isn't completely released by the end. In Bong Joon-ho's defense, we can't really conclude a lot of the stories and the overarching issues that exist in the world, just because there are no easy solutions to the issues he's bringing to light. And that made me feel kind of empty, but I don't think it should have been neatly wrapped up just to make the audience feel good. I respect this movie more for leaving things how they are, which is kind of a downer, but it's a more honest wrap-up. There's a really strong pro-animal rights message, and for some people it might be too much. It's depressing. I really don't know how to process the message of this movie because I do eat meat, and in order to fully embrace this film, you kind of have to hate humanity, at least for a lingering amount of time. Overall, Okja was a trip, and by trip, I mean it was an emotional roller coaster. It had me laughing out loud and then crying and then laughing out loud again. It was exhausting and impressive. I really like Korean films for the way they can find humor even in really dark subject matters, such as the slaughter and suffering of animals. That downer note aside, please watch this film. It's not really as dark as I'm making it sound. It's actually so much fun. It's very well acted. It's filled with a bunch of super talented and famous actors having a blast with their characters. Tilda Swinton, Jake Gyllenhaal, Gus from Breaking Bad, Paul Dano, Steven Yeun, what more do you want? It's shot very well and you can see a superstar in the making in the little girl that plays Mija. Overall, I give this film an A-. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen this film, what did you think of it? Did you feel like the message was too heavy-handed? Did it make you feel guilty? Did you cry? I definitely cried more than I should have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.